I'm a 38-year-old woman with a history that's not easy to talk about. For 6 long years, I was trapped in an abusive relationship. The man I once believed loved me turned into a nightmare, leaving me emotionally and physically scarred. The abuse was relentless, eroding my self-esteem and making me doubt my worth and judgment. His manipulation and control were suffocating, and I lost a part of myself during those years, a part I'm still working hard to reclaim. The relationship ended, but the aftermath was a different kind of battle. I had to rebuild from the ground up. Therapy became my lifeline. Week after week, session after session, I started to confront the trauma that had been my constant companion. My therapist was patient, guiding me through the tangled web of my emotions. She helped me understand that the abuse was not my fault, that I deserved to be treated with respect and kindness. It was a grueling process, but slowly, I began to heal. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, which made the journey even more challenging. The flashbacks, nightmares, and severe anxiety were like chains holding me back from moving forward. But I persevered. Through therapy, I learned coping mechanisms and started to regain my confidence. I began to set boundaries and trust my instincts again. It took years, but I reached a point where I felt ready to try dating once more, to take a leap of faith and open my heart again. That's when I met Tom. He's 44, kind, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. We started seeing each other a couple of months ago. From the very beginning, Tom seemed different. When I cautiously shared my past with him, he listened without judgment. He didn't shy away from my trauma. Instead, he acknowledged it and assured me that he was willing to support me through my struggles. Tom knows about my post-traumatic stress disorder and how hard it is for me to trust anyone. He seemed to understand that trying to date after such a traumatic experience was both new and terrifying for me. His initial kindness and willingness to be patient gave me a glimmer of hope. For the first time in a long while, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could move forward with someone who truly cared. We had many conversations about our boundaries and comfort zones. One evening, we talked about sex. Tom mentioned that he had never tried anal sex before, but was curious about it. I shared my own experiences, explaining that while it could be enjoyable, it required clear communication, preparation, and the right mood. I was explicit that it wasn't something that could just happen out of nowhere. He completely agreed, and for the first time in a long while, I felt heard and understood. Allowing myself to be vulnerable with Tom was a significant step. I started to let my guard down around him, cautiously optimistic that this relationship could be different. His respect for my boundaries and his apparent willingness to support me made me believe that I could build something healthy and positive with him. Little did I know that this fragile hope would soon be tested in the most unexpected and painful way. Despite the progress I had made and the trust one was beginning to place in Tom, an incident would occur that would shake my newfound confidence and force me to confront my deepest fears. In the early stages of my relationship with Tom, I felt a mixture of cautiousness and hope. After everything I had been through, opening up to someone new was both exhilarating and terrifying. Each interaction was a delicate balance between protecting myself and allowing myself to trust again. Tom's kindness and patience made it easier to take small steps forward. I found myself hoping that this time, things could be different. From the beginning, Tom showed a genuine interest in getting to know me. Our conversations flowed naturally, and he made me feel comfortable sharing parts of my life that I usually kept guarded. He listened intently, never pushing for more than I was willing to give. This was a stark contrast to my past relationship, where my feelings and boundaries were constantly dismissed. One evening, after a few weeks of seeing each other, Tom and I had a serious conversation about boundaries. We were sitting on my couch, the soft glow of the lamp casting a warm light over us. I could feel the weight of the topic, but Tom's calm demeanor helped ease my nerves. "I want us to be completely honest with each other," he said, his voice steady and reassuring. "It's important to me that we both feel safe and comfortable." I nodded, grateful for his approach. "I agree," I said. "I need to know that my boundaries will be respected." We talked about various aspects of our relationship, including our past experiences and what we were comfortable with moving forward. When the topic of sex came up, I felt a familiar knot of anxiety in my stomach. Tom sensed my hesitation and gently encouraged me to share my thoughts. "I've had some traumatic experiences in the past," I began, my voice wavering slightly. "It's crucial for me that we communicate openly about our needs and boundaries, especially when it comes to sex." Tom reached out and took my hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. I understand. We'll take things at your pace, and I want you to feel safe with me. Feeling reassured, I continued. There's something specific I want to discuss. I've had mixed experiences with anal sex. It can be enjoyable, but it requires a lot of communication, preparation, and the right mood. It's not something that can just happen out of nowhere. Tom listened attentively, his expression serious. I've never tried it before, but I'm curious about it. I appreciate you being open with me about this. I completely agree that it needs to be something we both feel comfortable with and prepare for. For the first time in a long while, I felt truly heard. His willingness to have this conversation and his understanding of my needs made me believe that he respected my boundaries. It was a significant moment for me, one that strengthened the trust one was beginning to build in him. As our relationship progressed, there were several moments where Tom's respect for my boundaries became evident. One such instance was when we decided to spend a weekend together at a cozy cabin in the mountains. The setting was perfect for deepening our connection, but I was nervous about being in such close quarters for an extended period. On the first night, after a day of hiking and exploring, we settled down in front of the fireplace. Tom suggested we take things slow and simply enjoy each other's company. We talked for hours, sharing stories and laughing. When it came time to go to bed, he asked if I was comfortable sharing a bed or if I preferred separate spaces. His consideration and willingness to accommodate my comfort level meant the world to me. Another memorable moment was when I had a particularly bad day and experienced a PTSD episode. The memories and emotions from my past relationship came rushing back, leaving me feeling vulnerable and shaken. I called Tom, and he came over immediately. Instead of trying to fix things or telling me to calm down, he simply sat with me, holding my hand and letting me talk through my feelings. His presence was a comforting reminder that I wasn't alone and that he was there to support me. There were also times when we were intimate, and Tom always made sure to check in with me. He would ask if I was comfortable and if there was anything I needed. His attentiveness and respect for my boundaries made me feel safe, allowing me to enjoy our time together without fear or anxiety. Our conversation about anal sex was just one example of how he respected my boundaries. Another was his approach to physical affection. He always asked for my consent before initiating anything new and was receptive to my feedback. When I told him that certain touches or positions reminded me of my past trauma, he adjusted without hesitation and thanked me for telling him. Tom's consistent respect for my boundaries and his understanding of my needs were like a balm to my wounded soul. They helped me begin to heal and regain my trust in others. For the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about the future. The immediate aftermath of the incident left me in a state of shock and confusion. When Tom suddenly shifted from consensual vaginal sex to anal sex without any warning, I was overwhelmed by a surge of emotions. The pain and shock of what was happening made my body tense up, and I yelped instinctively, trying to push him away. My mind struggled to comprehend what was happening. This was Tom, the man who had promised to respect my boundaries and understand my trauma. How could he disregard everything we had talked about so completely? As he continued trying to force his way despite my obvious discomfort, a wave of panic washed over me. I felt tears sting my eyes, but I fought them back, determined not to let him see how much he was hurting me. My body went into survival mode, and I found myself shutting down, dissociating from the situation to protect myself. It was as if I was watching everything unfold from a distance, my mind desperately trying to detach from the physical and emotional pain. When it was finally over, I lay there in stunned silence. Tom noticed my lack of response and asked why I wasn't making any noise, as if he was completely oblivious to the fact that he had just violated a major boundary. I couldn't find the words to respond. My voice felt trapped in my throat, suffocated by the weight of what had just happened. Instead, I turned away from him, curling up into myself as a means of protection. Tom, seemingly unbothered, got up and went to the bathroom. I lay there, numb and unable to move. When he returned, he acted as if nothing unusual had happened. He kissed me on the forehead and said, "Let's get some sleep," before turning off the light. I was left in the darkness, grappling with a whirlwind of emotions: anger, betrayal, sadness, and an overwhelming sense of confusion. The next few days were a blur. I felt like I was walking through a fog, my mind replaying the incident over and over again. I couldn't focus on anything else. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, heard his voice telling me to relax, felt the pain and betrayal all over again. I struggled to make sense of what had happened. How could someone who seemed so understanding and supportive do something so hurtful? I found myself questioning everything. Was it my fault for not speaking up more forcefully? Should I have been clearer about my boundaries? Was I overreacting? These thoughts tormented me, bringing back memories of my past abusive relationship where I was constantly blamed for everything. It was a familiar but unwelcome spiral of self-doubt and guilt. In an attempt to process my feelings, I reached out to my therapist. During our session, I recounted the incident, my voice trembling as I tried to hold back tears. She listened patiently, her expression one of deep concern and empathy. When I finished, she gently reminded me that consent is paramount and that what Tom did was a violation of my boundaries. Her words offered a small measure of comfort, but the confusion and hurt still lingered. I also talked to a close friend, hoping for some perspective. She was outraged on my behalf, reinforcing the idea that what happened was not my fault. She urged me to confront Tom and to stand up for myself. Her support meant a lot to me, but the thought of confronting him filled me with dread. What if he denied it or tried to blame me? Over the next few days, I oscillated between moments of clarity and intense self-doubt. I tried to piece together everything that had happened, replaying our conversation about boundaries and the incident itself. Each time, I came back to the same conclusion. Tom had knowingly crossed a line, disregarding everything we had discussed. Despite this realization, I found it hard to shake the feeling that I was somehow to blame. Years of being gaslighted and blamed in my previous relationship had left deep scars, and those insecurities resurfaced with a vengeance. It took all my strength to remind myself that I had every right to feel violated and betrayed. Eventually, I knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't continue seeing Tom after what had happened. The trust one had started to build with him was shattered, and there was no way to repair it. One evening, after mustering the courage, I texted him to end the relationship. My message was clear and concise. I can't see you anymore. What happened the other night was a violation of my boundaries, and I can't move past it. His response came quickly, filled with apologies and pleas for another chance. He claimed he didn't realize I wouldn't want it, that he thought we were at a point where I trusted him enough to say no. His messages only fueled my anger and disgust. How could he not understand the gravity of what he had done? His final message before I blocked him was the worst. I'm sorry I fucked up. Haven't you ever made a mistake and deeply regretted it? It was my first time, and I got carried away. Reading those words made me want to throw up. I realized then that he would never truly understand or take responsibility for his actions. In the days following the incident with Tom, I found myself trapped in a vortex of self-blame and confusion. Every thought seemed to spiral into questioning my own actions, my own worth. The familiar shadows of my past abusive relationship loomed large, whispering insidious doubts into my mind. Had I somehow invited this? Was it my fault for not being clearer, not being louder, not resisting more forcefully? Years of enduring emotional and physical abuse had left deep scars. My ex had a talent for twisting every situation, making me feel as if I was the problem. If he hurt me, it was because I provoked him. If he belittled me, it was because I deserved it. Those years had conditioned me to minimize my own pain and doubt my own experiences. Even now, after years of therapy and hard work to rebuild my self-esteem, those old habits crept back in. I spent hours replaying the incident in my mind, scrutinizing every detail. The conversation we had about anal sex was clear in my memory. I had made it known that it required communication, preparation, and the right mood. It was not something that could just happen spontaneously. Tom had agreed. He had seemed to understand. And yet, he had disregarded everything we had discussed. Despite this, part of me kept asking if I was overreacting. I had read enough and heard enough stories to know that people often make mistakes, that boundaries can sometimes be unintentionally crossed. But this wasn't a simple misunderstanding. It was a clear violation of a boundary I had explicitly set. Still, my mind kept circling back to the same questions. Should I have done more to stop it at the moment? Should I have been clearer beforehand? Was there something I missed? The internal debate was exhausting. On one side, I heard the echoes of my ex's voice, blaming me, diminishing my trauma. On the other side, there was a new, stronger voice, cultivated through years of therapy and self-reflection. This voice reminded me that I had a right to my boundaries and that my consent mattered. It was this voice that ultimately helped me see the situation for what it was, a violation of trust and respect. Reflecting on my past relationship, I saw the patterns of minimizing and self-blame clearly. My ex had convinced me that everything wrong in our relationship was my fault. He had a way of making his abusive actions seem justified, of twisting reality until I couldn't trust my own perceptions. It took years to untangle that web and begin to see the truth, but the scars were still there, deep and raw, influencing how I reacted to new hurts. I remembered the countless times I had blamed myself for his outbursts, for his cruelty. I had internalized the idea that I was difficult to love, that my needs and boundaries were unreasonable. This belief made it so much harder to stand up for myself, to trust my own feelings and judgments. It was a long process to unlearn these toxic thoughts, and moments like this incident with Tom threatened to undo some of that hard-won progress. In therapy, I had learned about the importance of self-compassion and validation. My therapist often reminded me that my feelings were valid, that my experiences were real. She encouraged me to acknowledge my pain without judgment, to treat myself with the kindness I would offer to a friend. These lessons were crucial in helping me navigate the aftermath of the incident. I tried to apply these lessons as I processed what had happened with Tom. I reminded myself that consent was not just about saying no in the moment, but about ongoing, clear, and enthusiastic agreement. I had communicated my boundaries clearly, and he had ignored them. This wasn't about a simple mistake or a miscommunication. It was about a disregard for my autonomy and my right to make decisions about my own body. Despite this clarity, the self-blame lingered. It was a hard habit to break. I found myself thinking about all the ways I could have done things differently, all the ways I might have prevented the situation. But each time these thoughts arose, I tried to counter them with the truth. I had done nothing wrong. I had communicated my boundaries, and he had chosen to ignore them. This was not a reflection of my worth or my ability to communicate. It was a reflection of his disregard for my autonomy. With this newfound clarity, I felt more equipped to move forward. I knew that ending the relationship with Tom was the right decision, and I felt a renewed commitment to protecting my boundaries and prioritizing my well-being. The support I received from others played a crucial role in this process, helping me see the situation for what it was and reaffirming my right to be treated with respect. Making the decision to end the relationship with Tom was not easy, but it became increasingly clear that it was the only option. The violation of my boundaries had shattered the trust one was beginning to build, and there was no way to repair it. The advice and support I received from my therapist, friends, and the online support group reinforced my resolve. I deserved to be with someone who respected my boundaries and valued my consent, and it was evident that Tom was not that person. During this time, the support from my therapist and friends was invaluable. My therapist helped me process my feelings, reminding me that it was okay to grieve the relationship while still recognizing that ending it was the right decision. She encouraged me to practice self-care and continue focusing on my healing journey. I found solace in the online support group, sharing my experience and receiving validation from others who had been through similar situations was incredibly comforting. It reminded me that I was not alone and that my feelings were valid. As I moved forward, I held on to the lessons I had learned. I reminded myself that my boundaries were important and that I deserved to be with someone who respected them. Ending the relationship with Tom was a painful but necessary step in my journey towards healing and self-empowerment. With each passing day, I felt a little stronger, a little more confident in my ability to protect myself and prioritize my well-being. And with the support of those who cared about me, I knew I would continue to grow and heal. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.